Welcome to the August 15th Board of Commissioners meeting at roughly 9:30. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is 2A, request approval of job description for clinical operations director and approved posting and filling the position. Michael.
Morning. Morning, commissioners. I am requesting to approve a job description for a clinical operations director for behavioral health and approve to post and fill that position.
Move to approve clinical operations director job description and approve posting and filling the position.
Second.
Okay, discussion with the board? Yeah, discussion with the public? Hearing none.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're ready to go, aren't you?
Yeah.
2B, request approval of revised job description for integrated care manager, approved new pay grade, approved posting and filling. Michael.
Yeah, so our current integrated care manager is an RN and she's leaving, and we've had no luck in recruiting a replacement, so we're restructuring a little bit. The pay scale has been dropped, and we'd like to approve the job description and post and fill, or post and fill.
Motion?
Move to approve the revised job description for integrated care manager position and approve the new pay grade 801 and approve posting filling the soon to be vacant position.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion with the board? No?
I'll just mention, for the benefit of people who may not know, we don't just blow through these without looking at them. We've had these few days and already been through and read them, so we're not flippantly passing things. I just want people to know that.
Not only that, if we have questions, then we call who's ever presenting,
Yeah.
discuss with them beforehand. Sometimes we postpone them till another meeting. Okay, any discussion with the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I do
Moving
have
on to 4A, late agenda item.
Yes, if we could.
Yep. We're with you.
Okay, thank you.
That way we can let you go.
Do we need to have a motion for that?
No.
No. Okay.
It's just a late one, not a late night.
Okay,
ahead, Mike.
so the late agenda item is to approve of a job description for our mobile response team program manager. Currently, the mobile response team and the brief therapy in-house team are under one manager, and it's getting kind of overwhelming. There is, I think, 18 to 20 staff that's underneath them, and they're really two different programs. So we would like to have a separate manager for both of those programs.
All right, motion?
I move we approve the job description for the mobile response team program manager and approve posting and filling the position.
Okay, a second?
Second?
Okay, discussion by the board? No? Discussion with the public? Didn't see any, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the 2C, request approval for pay invoices from Big Tent Rentals. Megan's gonna represent the fair, treasurer, tax collector, budget officer, finance director.
Good morning, Megan.
Good morning. So these are two invoices totaling $13,998.71 for the rental of a tent at the fair.
Okay.
and chairs and barricades.
All right, motion by the board.
Move to approve paying invoice 4062 and 4075 to Big Tent Rentals in the amount of $13,998.71 out of fair contracted services.
Second.
All right, discussion by the board. Hearing none, discussion by public. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to 2D, request approval to pay invoices from M4 Electric.
So these are invoices that were paid for electrical work that was done to get ready for the fair for various small jobs, but the total is over $10,000 in spending authority, so the total is $11,866.50.
I move we approve paying invoice number 1060, 1061, 1062, and 1063 in an amount totaling $11,866.50 out of fair minor repair maintenance account to M4 Electric.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Discussion? Discussion in the audience? Nope, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're ripping through these. All righty. 2E, request approval to pay invoice to Roto-Rooter Fair.
So this is an invoice for sandy cans, hand wash stations, and shower services for the fair.
Okay,
And the total is $11,066.
okay, motion.
I move we approve the payment to Roto-Rooter in the amount of $11,066.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Discussion with the audience? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Megan, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Megan.
Moving on to forestry, request approval of retirement and succession plan for county forestry.
Good morning, Lance Worden, County Forester.
Lance.
After 34 years with the county, Kathy Hathaway has announced her retirement with the county's forestry department. Per Coos County policy on employment of PERS retirees effective through December 31st, 2024, request board approval to hire Kathy for a very limited period, no longer than 6 months, commencing on September 1st, 2023, to assist with training of various forestry functions, including budget. Kathy would return part-time, less than 20 hours per week, on an as-needed basis at step 6, pay grade 780, calculated hourly without health insurance benefits. Approval of this plan will allow Kathy to transfer her 34 plus years of forestry knowledge and experience to the new hire.
Okay. Motion.
Move to approve the rehiring of Kathy Hathaway for a limited period of time as a part-time employee, less than 20 hours per week at her current step salary minus longevity without health insurance benefits for a limited period for the department's succession planning.
Good second.
Second.
Discussion?
I knew she wouldn't last when she started.
I thought the same thing.
Only 34 years. That's
You weren't here
Terrible.
then. What are you talking
I'm kidding.
about? I was, so. Any other meaningful discussion?
well. I'd like to meaningfully say that even though my tenure here is very short, the interactions I've had with Kathy and around and about her has been all pretty amazing. I'd say 34 years of great service is admirable and commendable, and I'm glad that she's going to stick around to train for that transition.
Yeah, we need that training, I believe.
Yeah.
She's
Just,
been a great servant of the county.
it's,
So I like to be thankful.
it's gonna be really difficult to fill.
It'll be difficult in her office for a while, I think, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any other discussion with the board?
Nope.
The audience? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, one other thing I'd like to mention to you. With the increased fire danger, we did close down the bike trails, the e-bikes, and any other motorized equipment out there. So
we might get a little kickback from some of the bikers on that, but that's the expected, I guess.
This is in keeping with our policy that we agreed to last year, is it
Yep.
not?
As soon as the industrial fire precaution reaches level 2, then we cut off the e-bikes.
So, I guess this is just based on the off chance, unlikely scenario that one would self-ignite. Is that what our concern
Yeah.
is?
And what I've heard is there's some of those bikers it's not so much the battery system comes with the bike. Some of them do their own modifications and then have a higher risk of starting a fire, from what I understand from some of the bikers.
But we're still open for regular bicycles.
Yep.
Yeah. And trusting that bike riders probably don't smoke.
Yeah, we're trusting that, but some of them do.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So
Any other discussion?
No,
Okay.
all right,
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Lance.
you for advising us about
Mhm.
plans.
2G, request approval of contract amendment with PBS Engineering, authorized chair to sign. Paul Slater.
Good morning, I'm Slater of Public Works. So this is just a request to extend the completion date for their contract to another year, December 31st of 2024. It's pretty likely we'll be done before that, but we didn't want to have to come back and ask again, so we've extended that out to the end of next year, just to be sure we're covered.
And this is for a specific job.
This is for the diesel tank replacement that we're doing in our middle lawn.
Okay,
Motion.
I move that we extend the completion date of to December 31, 2024 with PBS Engineering for environmental and engineering consulting services on our diesel fuel station replacement project. And authorize chair to sign.
Second.
Any discussion? Discussion out in the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2H, request approval of purchase mulching head.
So this item is related to an approval you guys already gave us for buying a new Mower Max brush cutting mowing machine. You had previously approved up to $275,000 to buy that machine. We wanted this additional head with it originally, but when the price came in with the shipping and everything, took us over the $275,000. So we had to pull this mulching head out of that purchase and ask for approval specifically for this mulcher separate. So that's why I'm here today to ask for that. Approval to purchase this Fecon mulching head for not to exceed $30,000. If we can get this added to our purchase of the machine and have it shipped at the same time, we'll save $750 in shipping.
Good.
I move we approve the purchase of a new Fecon mulching head from AtMax Equipment Company, price not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I'd like to hear Commissioner Sweet say that name again.
AtMax?
No, Fecon.
Oh,
It just sounded funny.
yeah.
Okay, you guys. Any discussion beyond that? Discussion with the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Request approval of purchase postage machine IT. Kyla.
Morning.
Morning, Kyla.
So I have been in talks with a couple different companies regarding our postage machine that we run all of our mail through. The USPS is revamping their requirements to meet postage for certain machines. Our older machines, so our machine is from 2014. The older machines, you can manually put in how you want to run the mail as far as the postage amount on there. USPS is putting more requirements on their machines as far as what they'll take. And so our machine is no longer going to meet the requirements coming 2024. So I've reached out to a couple of local companies. One of them is Pacific Automation. We use them for all of our copiers, our bigger copiers and scanners. Another one was Bullfrog. They're out of Eugene. And I also reached out to Pitney Bowes, who is our current postage machine provider. Pitney Bowes never did get back to me, but I did get 3 different quotes, 2 from Bullfrog and 1 from Pacific Automation. And Pacific Automation, they actually came in with a lower price. So that's what I'm requesting to do, is go ahead and move forward with that so that we can get an order in. They told me they're not sure how long it's going to take to get machines in, because it's hitting everybody at the same time.
Great.
Move to approve the replacement of the postage machine with Pacific Office Automation for $13,500.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Discussion in the audience? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Request approval of OTET subscription agreement, and authorize chair to sign. HR, Caroline.
Morning, Caroline.
Good morning.
Hi.
This is actually more of a housekeeping matter. We always have subscription agreements with OTED in place to cover the different unions who are on Oregon Teamsters health insurance. And I was contacted by OTED just over a week ago, and we realized that we just didn't have one in place for CAD, so they must have forgotten to send it to us. So we're just now asking that the board chair sign that OTED subscription agreement covering the period July 1, 2022 to June 30th of 2024.
I
Motion.
move that we authorize the board chair to sign the OTET subscription agreement.
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion? No? Audience discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2K, request approval of resolution adopting paid leave Oregon policy.
Okay, within the parameters of OAR 4710070 and ORS 657B, the policy includes some protections for the county's handling of employees who elect to apply for the state-provided benefits under the Paid Leave Oregon program. I did provide a copy of this policy to all the union representatives. Paid Leave Oregon has not been a smooth rollout. We have received policy updates as recently as a week ago, and therefore it's important to stay updated and know that there may be changes to our policy once the rollout happens and we learn more about how the program operates under the leadership of the Oregon Employment Department. At this point, I'm requesting the board to approve the Coos County policy in response to the Paid Leave Oregon prepared by the HR department effective September 1, 2023 and signed resolution 2308174P.
Motion.
I move to approve the Coos County policy in response to Paid Leave Oregon prepared by the HR department effective September 1st, 2023 and sign resolution 2308174P.
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion? I do. Would you like to explain the major highlights that we talked about yesterday?
Absolutely. So the Paid Leave Oregon program is a state-run family and medical leave insurance program administered by the Oregon Employment Department. It went into effect earlier this year, January 1st, actually, with contributions being taken out of employees' paychecks to help fund the program, and employers provide 40% of 1% of gross wages. And then the actual employees will be able to apply for Paid Leave Oregon benefits under the program actually commencing yesterday, and they can start taking the leave as soon as September 3rd. This provides paid leave off per benefit year for family leave, medical leave, and safe leave, with additional time available for pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. The program is run by the state of Oregon's program, so we don't have a lot of say as to how the program is run, but my policy does allow us some protections under the plan that we are allowed to put in place. For instance, we as employers are allowed to require at least 30 days notice of an employee's intention to utilize the program. And so I've covered that in our policy, and it also allows us to dictate whether or not we will allow topping off of use of accruals. The Paid Leave Oregon program does not cover 100% of wages in some circumstances, depending on your monthly wage. And the program does allow employers to elect to decide whether or not they want to allow employees to utilize their sick leave accruals at the same time as receiving Paid Leave Oregon benefits. So the policy covers some information on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Sir.
Questions by the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Request approval of contract amendment with Building Codes Division, authorized Director of Community Development Planning to sign, I guess.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Jill.
So we have an agreement with Building Codes Division for the state to cover electrical inspections until we can hire an electrical inspector. We have 2 prospects, but it's still a couple months away. It does take a lot of training. And so the agreement originally was to pay an hourly fee, but if we paid an hourly fee, that would be more than the fee that we're actually bringing in. So we asked for them to renegotiate this for us. So they're getting 90% of the actual application fee, and we retain 10% of the application fee, and there is no hourly rate.
So I'll make the motion. Move to accept amendment number 1 to the cooperative agreement CA 717963000 and PO 4400000012391, allowing Coos County to administer the building code program and authorize the director to sign.
Okay, there's a
I
second.
second that word.
Go ahead.
So we anticipate this really to only have a couple of months.
We're very
That-
hopeful.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. And then, good. Very good.
John?
I have nothing, I think, Richard.
Yeah, just, okay, go. Does anybody in the audience have a discussion about this? Mr. Richard, come forward, please. Oh, he's going up there.
So I'm Richard Kuznetsky, longtime resident of Coos County. And I just want to clarify that we, Coos County, are administering the building codes to issue building permits outside the city, the various city jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and then we get the permit fees and cost of inspections come directly to us.
To the
Is that
county.
correct?
To the county.
Yeah.
Yes,
Coos
that's
County.
correct. Right now, we don't have an electrical inspector, so we're having to use the state. So we're having to pay the state to actually do the inspections
For the electrical.
for the electrical only.
Right, and the other stuff we're still doing in county.
Yes,
And we're getting the fees and,
correct.
okay, and we still have to, at some level, answer to the state.
We do have to answer the state at some level.
And, you know, my question still is at what level do we have to answer to them? And what amount of discretion do we have in issuing our permits?
So the building official has a little bit of discretion, but not as much as what we would like to see. You have certain state laws and building codes that you have to apply. Alternative methods are really where we have more discretion than anything, but that applies mostly to structural. So that's not going to apply to your plumbing, your electrical. Those are all governed by your state building code.
Okay.
Whenever they do reviews of the codes, we're trying to get a seat on the board so that we can have more say of what that is.
Okay, but we still do have some discretion in the structural and,
Yes, for alternative
you know, how we
methods.
build this
Right.
thing. Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify that because I would like to see the process of getting building permits made a little more friendly.
Do you think it's more friendly now than it was, or have you done much?
It's been a number of years since I actually.
Okay, that's fair.
Got permits and did building.
Right.
But my latest interaction with the permitting process, I found not discouraging, but not helpful.
Is it because of e-permitting? Instead of just coming in and filing for a permit, were you using the e-permitting system?
No, it's not me directly applying for the permit.
Oh, okay.
I'm just, with the client I had.
Okay.
But yeah, I should probably come in and talk
Yep.
with you on a separate,
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Richard. I'll just comment that just in the short time I've been here, I've seen improvements.
Okay, yeah,
in
good.
community development, and Jill's working really hard on creating a culture of yes, let's find the most direct and appropriate route to yes, within the framework that we have to work.
Right.
But obviously, we want to restructure that framework too, which you're alluding to, and I
And
appreciate
we,
that.
I really want to see, building codes and well-built buildings. But I want us to be doing it, having a process that encourages it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the audience? Hearing, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2M, request approval of resolution to transfer funds to community development code compliance.
Megan, do we have a resolution number?
That would be you.
Okay, I didn't have the resolution number to read it off to you guys. Sorry.
Okay.
So when we were going through budget, we separated out code enforcement from building and planning. But there wasn't funds put in for insurance. So we have to do a transfer to cover that. So this is asking for approval of resolution 23-08-11 or 177B, transferring of funds from operation contingency to personal services insurance premiums, contracted service line to cover that cost of those insurance premiums.
Motion?
Move to approve resolution 23-08-177B for transfer of funds from operating contingency to the professional services insurance premium and contracted services line items to cover the cost of insurance premiums.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second that and note that the amount involved is $874.
Okay, any other discussion by the board? By the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Move we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the late agenda items, we did 4A already. 4B, request approval of MOU with City of Coos Bay regarding the 911 telephone tax fund sheriff. Oh, we're graced with the City of Coos Bay too, I see.
Good morning.
Welcome, Nicole.
If you would slide the mic.
Sorry. Some commissioner,
Go ahead.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. So the MOU, basically, North Bend has contracted with Coos Bay for dispatching services, and OEM sets the payment of 911 tax funds to dispatch PSAPs, primary service answering points, which there's two in the county, one for us, one for Coos Bay. Because Coos Bay has taken over North Bend's primary dispatching services, this MOU will pave the way to allow me to go to OEM, and we've already talked to them. This is already approved through them. Basically, we just got to sign the paperwork to sign over the monies for those 911 taxes to Coos Bay. During the budget season, we had it planned as a pass-through, which would cause extra work for the treasurer's office. This is just cleaner, takes out the middleman, and we go forward with it.
Okay. Anything to add?
I think that's a pretty fair summary of the process. Again, reiterate that this is a step that's required by OEM. There needs to be some sort of an agreement between the two involved agencies. Appreciation of the time and efforts that the finance department have to do to transfer these funds, and then also just really the appreciation of being able to work together between these two entities to come up with something that makes good sense. And really what we're looking at is those dollars follow the service. And so if something was to transition again in that, we have several communities we provide dispatch services for, if they were to transition back to the county, we would be, that's what this agreement kind of outlays for us, is those dollars would again follow the service.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Okay. Motion?
I move we approve the MOU with Coos Bay regarding 911 tax funds to Coos Bay for dispatching services for North Bay.
Second. Okay. Any other discussion? Discussion with the audience. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Could I take a moment to welcome Nicole? Congratulate us on her new position as city manager at Coos Bay.
Thank you.
You're going to do a great job. You are doing a great job. It's a pleasure
Thank you.
to have you on board. Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Request a letter of support for Bangor School Housing Project. Do you believe that's you, Raj?
Yeah, so the City of North Bend Coos Curry Housing Authority was denied funding from the Oregon Housing and Community Services for the Bangor School Housing Project. This is a project that has substantial community support. It also has a 1.5 million or a 2.5 million, 2.5 million contribution committed already from Coos Health and Wellness, and I would repeat for the benefit of all hearers that 2.5 million does not come out of the county's general fund. That's Coos Health and Wellness is funded separately with state federal funds that don't come from the county. But that 2.5 million is a substantial contribution to assist with the development of this housing project that's desperately needed in the Bay Area, in Coos County. And, time and again, we see benefits coming from funds flowing to the larger counties that have more pull than we small counties do. And it's frankly really unfair. So we've got this letter addressed to the director of Oregon Housing and Community Services, Andrea Bell, in support of an appeal. The project was denied LIFT funding, and I don't even know what LIFT stands for, but they were denied. And so we are appealing, we're supporting the appeal process to reevaluate that. So that's all.
Was that a motion?
I move that we sign this letter of support of reconsideration as CNB CCHA LIFT funding for the Bangor School Housing Project, NOFA number 2023-2.
For a second.
And I second that.
Okay. Discussion with the board?
Yes, I'd like to have the audience be aware of what the county's interest, what Coos Health and Wellness's interest is that has driven them to provide help in funding this project. Rod or David, I don't know who would like to answer.
Let David speak to that. He's very eloquent.
Thank you all. David Giels, Behavioral Health Director, Coos Health and Wellness. I appreciate this on the agenda. I did not know it was going to be on it. I can tell you that those of us that have worked on this project for the last year were sorely disappointed that we were not approved. And we are in a complete agreement that communities like ours sometimes get ignored in terms of the funding. When we looked at the last project we had funded around housing, there really has not been any significant development for decades, really. So I really appreciate hearing the commissioner's support on this issue. This is really community housing. This was designed for all sorts of individuals within our community, representing a whole range of groups, from working individuals and families to folks that have income issues, to our population, which is folks with mental illness. So this project was designed to try to address a number of needs within our community. As you all know, it is very difficult, even when we have somebody that's new to our community, to get a job, to try to find housing. So I'm looking over at sometimes. So we really see this as hugely valuable, and to try to continue to make our case to the state that we are deserving of funding, and out of equity and fairness, they should fund us similarly to how they funded other areas. I also just to tell you, we did commit our funding of about $2.5 million to this project. The commissioner signed an approval to as an MOU through the end of this year. It is likely that if we are allowed, I will probably be asking the commissioners to extend that MOU so that we can continue to provide some funding for this project. There is, I think, a good sense that we will prevail. This is the second time we've applied. So we do hope that third time will be a charm, and we are asking for that political pressure to help move the powers that be when they look at these applications again. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to tag on the end of that one of the key points in the funding denial was that the project scored poorly on the I forget how they termed it, but basically racial diversity score or whatever. Whether you need a house or not has nothing to do with the color of your skin, and we don't care about that. The reality is that we don't have a very racially diverse county here. It's people of different skin colors don't live here. I mean, that's just the way. And so, or the reality, we don't care. If they did, we'd serve them just like we serve everybody else. It doesn't make any difference. But these racists at the Oregon Housing and Community Services Division think that matters, and they're the ones that make this into an issue, and it really frustrates me to no end. So I hope that they do reconsider in fairness. I'm not as optimistic as you are, but I hope they do. We'll see.
Either that or it's a reason to deny your request in favor of somebody else.
That's right.
There were some additional considerations. Some of the projects that were funded in areas where there was wildfire damage. So I will give a nod that there was a prioritization of some communities that had substantial loss of housing related to wildfires. Okay. And so that fair enough. There were other considerations, but I also agree completely that, and what we've been trying to make an argument is that, this is an area where there is issues of problems around equity and fairness. A lot of our markers in our community are very similar to other areas where there are issues around discrimination around race. So our markers around health, we are one of the higher areas in the state with certain health conditions, cancers, higher rates of cancers. We have higher rates of child abuse than most other communities as well. So some of the markers that are routinely used to focus on racial and ethnic group problems, we have those as well. And I think those are really related to economic disparities that we've had in our community for quite some time.
Right.
Anything else?
Thanks, David.
Okay. Anything from the audience? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Ranking. Last item is 4D, request approval of resolution asking legislature to repeal 110. A couple of weeks ago, I got an email from Jackson County on a similar matter to repeal 110, asking the legislature to do that. And so I thought it was a good idea that Bruce County do this too. And maybe if we pass it today, then it might be on the May ballot for next year. I'll go through this resolution. It's to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the people of Coos County. Whereas the ballot measure 110, which was enacted through a vote in 2020, the Drug Addiction Treatment and Recovery Act, mostly a misnomer, was passed in 2020 with the promise of reducing crime, improving public safety, and saving lives. And whereas the evidence shows that Measure 10 has the opposite effect, leading to an increase in overdose deaths, criminal activity, public nuisance, and diminished quality of life for the citizens of Oregon and Coos County. Whereas Measure 10 was passed, since Measure 110 has been passed, there's been a dramatic increase in overdose deaths in Oregon. In 2020, there were 585, 917, with the rate of Oregon teenagers dying from drugs since 2019 have more than tripled. That is from the Oregon Federal Delegation of April 20th to 23. Now, in Coos County, we've had thousands of Narcan doses administered over each year, and infant deaths have been attributed to unsecured drugs. In Coos County, there were 9 drug overdose deaths in 20, in 21, 8, in 22, 16, and so far through mid-August of this year, Coos County's had 11 with 8 cases pending toxicology lab report for a total of possibly 19. And those Coos County stats were from our medical examiner, Chris Karcher. Whereas Measure 110's enforcement provisions have provided ineffectual, as of June 30 of 23, 5,299 tickets filed in the Oregon Circuit Courts since Measure 10 went into effect. More than 3/5 resulted in the recipient failing to pay and facing no other penalties. According to the Oregon Judicial Department, found online regarding Class E violations, most of the remaining tickets were dismissed or are pending. The state audit found that during its first 15 months in operation, the treatment referral hotline received just 119 calls, for a cost to the state of about $7,000 a call. Whereas Measure 110 has reduced the deterrent of drug laws, making it more likely that people would use drugs. Whereas Measure 110 has increased drug usage, has led to a number of public health issues, including HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, syphilis, and mental health problems. The increase in drug usage because of Measure 110 has made providing health care to the people who need it much more difficult. And whereas 110 has contributed to an increase in property crimes, a study by the National Institute on Drug Abuse found that drug users are more likely to commit property crimes than non-drug users. The study found that drug users are 2.5 times more likely to commit burglary, 2 times more likely to commit larceny, and 1.5 times more likely to commit motor vehicle theft. And whereas a person of domestic crimes has seen a massive increase in the implementation of Measure 110, and violent crimes have been linked to drugs. Whereas drug users are more likely to be involved in drug trafficking. A study by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime found that drug users are 2.5 times more likely to be involved in drug trafficking than non-drug users. Whereas members of law enforcement reported that Measure 10 has made it much more difficult to motivate drug users to enter treatment. The treatment of the threat of arrest and prosecution has been removed by 110, which has also decreased the ability to find and create cases against these dealers. Whereas hiring process for both peace officers and prosecutorial personnel have seen greatly decreased interest due to the decriminalization of drugs and increase in crime. Whereas 110 has led to an increase in unauthorized camping, dumping of garbage, dumping human waste on the land and waters, which spreads diseases. Whereas 110 has made a destination for drug users from other states. And I have seen that. I've been back east twice now by vehicle. Once you get out of Oregon, you don't see these problems anymore. You don't see them in Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, where I went through. You don't see this. And confirmed seller's market for cartels and foreign actors. This is because Oregon is one of the few states where drug possession is made possible by 110. You see a typo there. We corrected that before, okay. Whereas we, the Coos County Board of Commissioners and the Coos County Sheriff, Gabe back there, believe that derogatory effects and long-term threats to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Coos County by Measure 110 are recognized and that Measure 110 needs to be repealed. Now therefore be it resolved by the Coos County Board of Commissioners and the Coos County Sheriff that 1, the provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110 needs to be repealed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And 2, the Oregon legislature must immediately take all actions necessary to repeal provisions enacted to Oregon Ballot Measure 110, dated this 15th day of August of 23.
I move we approve resolution 23-08178C.
A second.
A second,
Discussion.
and third, and fourth.
Thank you for preparing that. I know that our parole and probation office would be very happy to sign this. It's really adversely impacted their ability to function.
Seems like it was I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it seems like all of a sudden with decriminalization of 110, et cetera, that we just been a magnet for folks in other states coming and say, oh, we can use our drugs there. We'll go there. We won't have to possibly get caught by law enforcement in Idaho or Utah or wherever. So we can go there, which creates all kinds of problems for the folks here. And it's not good. Discussion?
Yeah, due to the use of an old emailing list, apparently, I didn't receive that resolution from Jackson County a couple of weeks ago like Commissioner Main did. I just got word of it the other day and immediately had a plan to do this very thing, and Commissioner Main beat me to it. Thank you for doing that.
I noticed on their email list that some people have actually passed on. They have an updated list or they're no longer commissioners, et cetera. So they need a little help in revising who they send to.
Yeah, but this Measure 110 has been an absolute monstrosity for the people of Oregon, for law enforcement, for healthcare, for everyone. And it's appalling that it's even there. So I hope that everybody in this room stands up, pick up the phone, and call our legislators to put and keep the pressure on, because this has got to get reversed.
Sheriff, you have anything to add?
In my opinion, will result in thinking that the gain momentum is going to help, but we're just going to keep seeing the levels of abuse high. How the drugs work, they're flooding. Every once in a while, you're not fentanyl, fentanyl comes back in cheaper, worse, better, so sure. You know, mixing it back.
Okay. John, you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Audience, you have anything to add? David?
Morning, David.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Jones. One thing I would like to point out, there is one thing in Measure 10 which does have benefit, and that's a diversion of the marijuana revenue, from legalized marijuana to drug treatment. Because Oregon traditionally has, and still has, a tremendous lack of treatment options. So I certainly think it's reasonable and necessary to repeal 110, but I think it is important to have a funding mechanism for addiction, because otherwise you're still going to be recycling people in and out of the criminal justice system. The second thing I'd like to point out, I realize sometimes that people have a difficulty being real timely, but it's unfortunate that this is happening after the legislature adjourned. So I don't know if they'd be inclined to come back in a special session and address this or not. The third thing I think it's important to emphasize, even though this will obviously alleviate some of the problems, it really doesn't get to the heart of the fact that we simply do not have an adequate criminal justice system to deal with all the problems that are developing. I don't know where the stats are now, but back during the time, and I think Commissioner Lee and Commissioner Sweet can remember when the county was being audited by the Secretary of State for, it was on the list of counties that had shaky finances. And those audits all showed in relation to Coos County that we had one of the lowest levels of spending on criminal justice. I would be amazed if that wasn't still the case. It might be worse, it might be a little better. But regardless, we don't have the jail space. We don't have adequate district attorneys. We don't even have enough, I think, patrol deputies, either the sheriff's officers and police generally. And I think you need to keep that in mind, because even if ballot measure 110 is repealed, you're still going to have substantial problems in this area. And again, you promote, as you do under measure 10, a real contempt for the law. What you're doing is just recycling people that are using drugs and selling drugs in and out of jail and then releasing them because of overcrowding. And the figure that I keep hearing that I assume is accurate is that the district attorney is 1,500 cases basically behind, and the prosecution arm of the criminal justice system simply doesn't have the resources to prosecute as they should. So even though this is something that's necessary, it's only one step. It's not going to take care of the problem unless you have adequate funding somewhere along the line for the different parts of the criminal justice system. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Thank you very much for moving on this.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you especially for tying that together.
Yeah.
Some of the issues we have here in funding an appropriate criminal justice system.
Yep.
Simply, there are very few consequences to bad behavior in this county because of the lack of funding that we have for prosecution, the jail, patrol.
And I certainly think that's true, but I think it's also it's worth mentioning again that I think addiction treatment is a real crucial component of that also. And that's one of the basic flaws, as you know, from 110. It basically gives a green light to use and aggravates the problem. But even if somebody wanted to get help, there simply isn't enough addiction treatment out there at this point to do that. So anyway, hopefully this will solve part of the problem.
All right,
I'd like to go one step further, and that is the fact that we don't have all the resources necessary for a good criminal justice system, adequate justice system, puts an immense load upon our existing sheriff deputies, parole and probation, and our prosecution staff, district attorney, and they all deserve a great amount of gratitude for carrying this extra load and doing what they can. And they're doing everything they can.
Yes, they are.
They need more support.
Under difficult circumstances.
I think even when you were in juvenile department, there were what, 7 people?
Well, in the juvenile detention, there were 7 full-time, and then they had, I don't know, 10 or 5 to 7 part-time people.
So roughly 10 or 12?
Yeah.
And now there's what, 4?
You know, I'm not sure what they're all.
I know there are 4 with it, including the manager.
And even then, we had this tremendous problem where you had quite frequently a family would be in crisis when the kid was arrested for a serious enough crime to detain. And the kid in the family would realize this kid really needs treatment. And then there'd just be this gap because you couldn't access treatment quickly. And the kid would often go back to addiction into a life of crime. So very unfortunate cycle. Hopefully we can break it.
Thanks, David.
David, I really appreciate your comments. You and I don't always agree on everything, but I always appreciate the rounding that you bring to an issue and bringing a different perspective in a way that is really approachable. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for saying that, Commissioner Taylor. And I do have to say, despite our disagreements, I have found you refreshingly open to having dialogue on issues.
Thank you. I try.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes.
My name is Lynn Torbeck. I live at 787 Dean here in Coquille. And I'm very glad to see the commissioners addressing this subject. And it's already been stated what a problem it creates. And I fully support the resolution. But I think it's a necessary and commendable response, but a weak one, because all it is memorializing. I would suggest that we should seek ways to take more concrete but legal actions to push back against the drug trade. And now most of the cities in Coos County have voted to not allow marijuana stores, the exception being Coos Bay. So in the city limits of Coos Bay, you have marijuana stores all over the place, inundating the city with big signs advertising marijuana. And this sends a message that drugs are okay. And it's right out there where our young people can see it, and they get this message. Even though it's illegal for them to use marijuana, you still get the cultural message that it's okay now. Now, we have outlawed advertisements for cigarettes and alcohol, but giant advertisements for marijuana are legal. So I would suggest we should also push the legislature to outlaw marijuana advertisements. And as to what the county can do, the low-hanging fruit is that there is one marijuana store in Charleston outside city limits. So I'm asking the commission to propose a vote as soon as possible at the next election to outlaw marijuana stores outside city limits. And this would be consistent with most of the cities in the county. So I think it would be approved by the citizens, even if it doesn't apply to Coos Bay. So that's one concrete step we can take. And I don't think we should just cower in the face of the legislature and say, well, we can't do anything. I think we should search for ways, for things that we can do. And that's one thing we can do. So, thank you.
A second little comment. You said your name, and we're related? It was your father, the
Yes.
county surveyor?
Yes. Russ was myself.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
I wanted to comment, Lynn, thanks for your comments. It is a weak response. It's true. I mean, this is we demand, well, they don't really care. We understand that. But this is a necessary step to justify some other ideas that may or may not be in the works.
Well, I fully approve of doing it.
Absolutely.
I would like us to focus on more concrete steps going forward.
Absolutely understood, and that's an idea that is not unique to you. We're working on it.
So this is a step to say we've had enough.
Yeah.
I would additionally like to respond to a suggestion you made, which I agree to would be good, and that is to disallow advertising of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that there is advertising that talks about the dangers and the risks of smoking, I don't know about alcohol, is because of an agreement by the tobacco industry to do that, despite the fact that it otherwise could have been interpreted as a loss of free speech. We don't have that same agreement, and I don't know that we could get it with the marijuana industry, short of some huge class action suit such as that, which constrained the advertising for at least cigarettes. I don't know about it. So it would be difficult, if not impossible, for us to outlaw advertising for marijuana, no matter how much I personally would like to do it.
Well, then the alternative is to outlaw the stores altogether, which we do have the option of doing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. My name is Nancy Brown. I live in Coos Bay. I just want a response to his thing about the marijuana and the advertising and all that. And I've been in the medical dispensary for quite some time. Most of the people that do come in there are older people that have been in the closet. Now they can actually come buy legal weed, you know, for their own things. If we were gonna outlaw stuff like that, I think we should outlaw big pharma all over our TV sets, pushing their drugs. I don't think they're better or worse. I think they're actually a lot worse than the medical marijuana. I don't really know what to say. I just want to say that not everyone that uses marijuana is a bad person.
Right.
I think it's better than alcohol, in my opinion. The people that smoke weed don't go out and kill thousands of people on the highway, go home, beat the hell out of their wife and kids when they get drunk or whatever, like alcoholics do, and abuse their children and stuff like that. That's just my opinion, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
David? David, you want to say something?
Thank you all. Didn't know this was going to be on here, and I'll just give you a heads up. I'll give you a minority opinion today. You know, the discussion on how to help deal with addiction is complicated. It's complex. We have not arrived at a solution that is satisfactory to anybody. I grew up in the 80s, in the middle of the war on drugs. The war on drugs was a long-time effort that also did not prove highly successful. So I do think we are, you know, the pendulum swings back and forth, but we still really have not arrived at a good way to make progress in this area. So I think, you know, regardless of decisions that are made, we are still going to have a problem no matter what approach we take. And I do agree that, you know, we don't have the legal means in place, even if we were to do anything. I mean, we don't have the manpower to really address this in the first place. I do think that in terms of the medical community opinion, more and more the medical community treats addiction as a disease, as an illness, as a condition. And so do we create that condition is illegal? As a mental health director, that was the same thing for mental health conditions for a number of years. It was treated as a criminal condition. People's rights were taken away, things like that. The impact of those decisions is that it tends to impact people that are already disadvantaged and creates more further disadvantage. People that have addictions are pretty much across the board, all economic groups, also all sorts of categories. Addiction rates are largely the same across all communities, but the people that get impacted, incarcerated, are in generally part of a low advantage group, whether it's economic, whether it's racial. Those are the folks that are disproportionately impacted by addiction. This Measure 110 was not rolled out well. I don't think anybody can argue with that. Even the people that were in favor of it recognize this was not rolled out very well. The treatment resources came way after the measure passed. The treatment resources are now starting to come online. In January of this year, most of our organizations that do this work were funded in January. So we are now just starting to see potential impacts of this. We have several $1 million in new funding that came as a result of Measure 110. This funding is likely to continue through at least 2025. And so if Measure 110 went away, the funding that went for these positions likely would also go away. And would further put us behind in terms of opportunities that we have for moving forward. So I can't fault you all as commissioners or the community for feeling that this is not successful. I would say that we have gotten better at learning how to do ourselves in. Fentanyl is really one of the reasons why we see higher rates of death. That is a much more effective, cheap, easy to manufacture solution, and we feel its impact. Our technology and our knowledge helps us to do more damage to ourselves more quickly. And so that is what we're seeing. As I think we all know, our society is not doing particularly well in many areas. And addiction is, I believe, what shows us that we're not doing well as a community. To target that group, saying this is the problem, really belies the overall fact that that community is more vulnerable to this, but the stressors and the problems that they're experiencing are the same ones that all of us experience on a day-to-day life. We just have a better way of coping with it oftentimes. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes.
Online, Rob Taylor?
You know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I've been a proponent of the Second Amendment because it's in the Constitution. And one of the things that I fight all the time, and I know you, all three of you commissioners appreciate the Second Amendment. You appreciate the right to defend yourself. But what the leftists do all the time is they demonize the gun. Someone goes and takes a gun, they misuse the gun, and then everyone should have to lose their right to owning a gun. I think this is the same thing with drugs. There are people out there who use drugs, especially marijuana, who have never committed any other crime in their life other than the consumption of drugs. What we have running rampant in the streets, and like that gentleman said, just spoke before me, drugs belie the fact, or going after Measure 110 belies the fact that we have a broken justice system. And you have to address that, because there are people out there who are not on drugs, who are committing property crimes, who are violating other people's rights, and this does nothing to address this. We have to address the broken justice system. The state has plenty of money. They have money to buy crack pipes for people. They should be able to have money that they could send to our jail so that we can give the proper amount of salaries to staff members so we can retain and keep more staff members in our jail and get those jails open up. They should be able to send money to our district attorneys, so our district attorney can also pay the proper amount of money to keep a proper staff at the district attorney's office, so that we are not 1,500 cases behind. We should be right on target with our justice system. And when the justice system breaks, everything else breaks down. And, you know, this is something that's coming from the state legislature. You have that 9th Circuit Court district ruling that allows people to sleep and crap in the middle of the streets, and we can't do nothing about it. Whether they're on drugs or not is irrelevant. So I'm one of those, I think that there's a lot of people who take drugs just like people take guns, and they make those inanimate objects the hobgoblins of the mind. The hobgoblin, the real enemy here, is a broken justice system. And until we've got a system that works, just like David Jennings said, just like the gentleman who spoke before me said, we are missing the target. We are missing the target here. And I agree that Measure 110 was completely badly thought out. It has been administered very badly. I mean, they were supposed to have money for treatment. They never did. And now they're practicing harm reduction. Like I said, they're extending out crack pipes. They want to create safe injection rooms. You know, we have alcohol in this country. Alcohol was once prohibited, but never during Prohibition did they ever say, well, we need to have safe drinking rooms. We need to provide alcohol for alcoholics. Never did they ever consider something like that. So we don't encourage bad behavior, but we have to have a justice system that reacts to bad behavior no matter what substance they are on, whether it be anger, whether it be mental illness, whether it be drugs. We've got to look at the actions people are doing and react to those actions. To me, I know plenty of people who do drugs, like I said, who've never committed a crime. So we have to look at what's really going on in the street. And as far as I can see, it's lawlessness. Because once you allow everyone to do whatever they want, everyone's going to do whatever they want. And if you take the resolution, send it to the legislature, but you also got to send something up there to tell them that they have to fix the justice system, because that's what broke in this country. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else online? Sir, in the front.
Well, not exactly online, but.
Well, no, but I didn't see anybody there, so
I
you're
heard Rob Taylor and I knew, okay. Anyway, good
good morning, gentlemen. I'm a little bit late to the party, so if this topic's already been covered, let me know. But Coos Health and Wellness gets a lot of money, and it doesn't come from us, it comes from other sources. We're having a mental health issue and a drug health issue. A lot of it is because we don't have the necessary funding for the police and the jails and all that stuff. Is there any way you guys can come up with a way to go work with Coos Health and Wellness to create a mental health unit that would somehow create funding for the jails and the prosecutors and the district attorneys to help the mental health crisis everyone is going through, having to put up with the fact that there's so much lawlessness going on that cannot be addressed because of the lack of funding. So there seems to be a lot of money coming into Coos Health and Wellness. Is there a way that you can create something inside of Coos Health and Wellness that will fund the DAs, the police, the jail pods, and so forth and so on? So just an idea of alternate funding that you can, that it doesn't have to come from the county, it doesn't have to come from us. Ideally, it should come from the state or it should come from the federal government. And since Coos Health and Wellness seems to have a huge funnel of money coming into it, maybe there's a way you can carve out a piece of that to help with the county situation. And that's my comment. So
I think I can respond to that. I think it's important to respond, although I normally don't engage in discussion during public comment.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
No, I just wanted to throw it out.
You bring up a great point. I wish we could.
Okay.
The money that is received by Coos Health and Wellness, and Michael or David certainly welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, is highly designated. And it could not be diverted to these other uses that you suggested, at least.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So who determines where the funding for Coos Health and Wellness is diverted or designated?
By the specific grants they receive.
Okay. So it's a matter of getting the grants.
Well,
just throwing out alternate ideas.
Health and Wellness runs on grants. None of the general fund of the county supports anything in health and wellness.
I understand that. But I'm just saying, since they seem to have a lot of money coming in, it would be
correct on that
ideal.
part.
Yeah, it'd be ideal if we could get them to come up with some way to get a grant to help out the mental stress issues that everybody in the county is feeling because of the lawlessness that's happening due to lack of funding.
I appreciate your comments, Marty. A few months ago, I explored this concept, not exactly the way you phrased it, but and specifically what I was looking for really couldn't be done for the reasons previously stated just here.
Okay.
But that's no reason to not continue thinking about it and coming up with a creative solution that gets us where we need to be. And I know that Mike and David are open to have those conversations as well. So great input. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Did you know that in
probably
our
not.
last legislative session, just ended a couple months ago, that there was a bill where, and back up a little bit, DAs themselves are paid by the state. So small and medium-sized counties are paid at one level for DAs, and large counties are paid at a higher level. There was a bill in the Oregon legislature to make them all the same. My thought process was the small and medium counties, the DA is a lot more hands-on and actually prosecuting cases like ours does. In the large counties, it's the same old Newman. That's more administrative, in my opinion. I could not see why there was a difference of pay between the two, but the Oregon legislature turned that down.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who else? Somebody else? Nobody else? We kind of covered it. Dino? No? No? Okay. Okay, call for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's move on to commissioner reports. Who wants to report?
I'll pass today.
Okay. Well, you got anything?
Yeah, so I have a few things to mention. It's been a really busy couple of weeks since our last BOC meeting. Met with Red Cross, we've had some fee hearings, dealt with some road setback issues with the public, attended a celebration of Roger Craddock's great service to the city of Coos Bay before Nicole assumed his role officially. And congratulations from me as well on that, Nicole. There's been a lot of things going on. Last week, week before last, there was a young man who was killed in the process of involved fighting the flat fire. It was actually a traffic accident outside of Powers. His name is Benjamin Sapper, and he was very young. And so they held a cordon of honor for Benjamin down in Gold Beach last week, and Nicole and I went down for that and interacted with some of the people down there in Curry County, and that was a tragic thing, and I hope that we just continue to pray for Benjamin's family. There was something else I wanted to insert there, but I'm gonna bypass that and go to this. This is kind of a personal issue for me that I want to address publicly. I did so yesterday on the Rob Taylor report, and I'm going to do it again right here. We live in a small community, and word gets around when you've been here a while and you know some people. And one of the things that has come back to me and has been discussed out there in the open is I have been accused. My wife and I, as a setup, my wife and I are currently engaged in the beginning of a construction project on our own property that we've been talking about for a couple of years. And I've had this property, we've had this for a number of years. Anyway, we're finally going on that. Word has come back around to me that supposedly I have put out some kind of a threat against people in the building department here at the county or at DEQ that if my permit isn't facilitated rapidly, that heads are going to roll. Now, I don't know where this began. I have no idea, but I am here to tell every single person within the hearing and whoever started this nasty rumor that that is completely out of my character. I have never done anything like that. I will never do anything like that. And if I ever did, I should certainly not be here to serve the people of Coos County who that's why I'm here, is working for all of you, including whoever you nasty person is who started this rumor. So knock it off, shut it down, and if you wanna start something like that, come see me personally to my face. Show me the evidence, because it's crap and I'm not gonna put up with it. And when I find out who did it, I'm gonna come tell you exactly, directly to your face, whoever you are and wherever you are, knock it off, because it's garbage. That's it.
All righty, I had a meeting with the Coos Bay District Manager of BLM here last week. Talked about various things. My wife and I went to the Coquille Firemen's fundraising barbecue. That was great. There was an amazing amount of people there, like normal. I went to a South Coast Step meeting. And by the way, September 9th and 10th is their annual derby. You can get tickets at Bites On in Empire, T&T Market out East Side, Coos Bay Marine, Anglo Marine, Coos Comfort Furniture here in Coquille, Riverview Gifts and Bandon and Y Marine. Also attended an Oregon Anglers Alliance meeting on Saturday for a couple hours, trying to bring back salmon to the coast of Oregon. There's about 65,000 members now of various groups aligned. And with that, we will move on to citizen comments. I don't have a sheet, but who wants to go first? Phil? No? Oh my gosh.
Oh, you got a Richard there.
Richard, come on up. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Come on up. Oh, there we are.
Coos County haven't been around for a month or so, so possibly some of this has been addressed. A number of the people that we just heard from were talking about the lack of funding in Coos County for some real basic infrastructure. And as far as I know, in the last month or so, there's not been a real direct action on getting our county self-sustaining. And if we don't have a well-run county, all the property values in this county are going to drop. And I bring this up in relation to Coos County's property tax rate being 1/3 the rate of the counties in the state. And I would like to see us become self-sustaining and do something about the property tax rate that will still leave us below the state average considerably and still allow us to be self-supporting and self-sustaining, not requiring other entities to fund us. I don't know what the process would be, to achieve this, but I think it behooves us to try and figure it out. To try and figure it out. Another aspect of this is I would like to see somehow a mechanism created that would allow the people in this county that do not own property but benefit greatly from our services. It's a real tricky one. Anyway, I'm going to probably continue harping on this to come up with a way of supporting ourselves, so that our property values, maintain high. It will cost me money if the property rates go up. And we're not, Bonnie and I are not wealthy. We're both retired, as it were. Anyway, you guys are going to hear this over and over again.
Good.
We need to figure out a way to do that. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Sunny Payne?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Never been to a commission meeting before, so please excuse my nervousness. My wife and I purchased property on the upper half of Shelley Lane about 7 years ago, and it's in the residential area of up on Shelley Lane. And due to the curves where we live, we have poor visibility both east and west coming out of our driveway. It makes it a little difficult to get out onto Shelley Road. The visibility was especially bad to the east because of a lot of brush, berry vines, weeds and stuff, to be able to see to the east side of the road. About 2.5 years ago, I took it upon myself to remove all the vegetation along the road there in front of my property, so that it's a little bit safer. In that time, I've been maintaining that 2.5, that area for the last 2.5 years. Cutting the weeds down, the berry vines just keep coming back, and doing that. So in order to eliminate the problem and decrease the maintenance and to beautify my property, I decided to landscape the area. The landscaping plan, which I just gave you, calls for leveling the area, laying down weed barrier fabric, and then covering that with 3 inches of river gravel, and spot planting some low-growing plants. Halfway into the project, I was informed by the road department that there was a 30-foot right-of-way from the center line of Shelley Lane, about 20 feet into my property. and that nothing could be placed in the right of way. I met with Paul, the roadmaster, and asked to be allowed to continue with the improvements. My request was denied. He also informed me that you're working on an ordinance which would force homeowners to remove anything that is in the right of way. He stated that he didn't even like the water meter box that was in the right of way. The road department has no plans to use this area alongside the road and doesn't even have the resources to regularly maintain them on the roadside, and most of the county as well. Many of my neighbors have spent a great deal of time, energy, and money improving their property and deserve the right to keep their improvements. Rather than threaten homeowners with forced removal of this landscaping, why not work with homeowners who are willing to maintain and beautify their property and develop landscaping guidelines for safety, low maintenance, and functionality while beautifying their property? There are already many trees, utility poles, mailboxes, road signs, fire hydrants, and other utilities in the right of way. Why penalize us homeowners who are trying to make these things safer, decrease the maintenance, and beautify our properties? Please allow me to continue my landscaping my property. Everything I'm planning is at road level or below and does not interfere with anything, visibility or maintenance of that area. On the plants that I'm planning on doing are non-invasive. This is a picture of the rock and plants that I plan to put in. And here's the work in progress that they stopped while I was working. Basically, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Torbeck, do you have anything to add?
Nothing additional.
All righty. Brendan Gibson? Okay, and Belinda Gibson, I guess.
Brian and Belinda.
Oh, Brian, that's how it is. Oh, I see that the sunny part got into your signature there. Beachbound RV Park?
Yes, we are building an RV park on Bexington Beach.
Now, you should know before you start that any appeals of planning decisions or planning department or anything else that, no, I know, but if it goes that direction, we cannot hear what you're going to tell us because we sit in judgment of any appeal that you may have, okay?
We can limit what we say so that
Yeah, but just bear in mind, then if anybody else objects on the other side of whoever might, they can say that we are biased by listening to your comments. And that would make it difficult for us to make a decision if it were to go down that line. Okay. Normally it's planning department or building codes, then the planning commission, you appeal to the planning commission, and then if that's not satisfactory, then you appeal to the county commissioners. So we try and stay out of all of that until it comes to us, and then it's fresh for us, and we are not influenced by any kind of parties at all to a particular situation that you might have.
I feel very strongly that that is one of our duties, and in order to carry out that duty, I can't listen to what you have to say regarding this matter. I mean, if you wish to, I'm going to excuse myself.
Yeah, I can't either. I'm sorry, but
yeah, and I understand that. So I would just simply state that,
Yeah,
there are rumors that are untrue.
okay, all righty.
And that there's a lot of clarification that needs to happen.
Sure.
That hasn't had an opportunity to happen.
Okay, so you would meet with the planning department, if you haven't already, go through all of those issues with them. If that is not satisfactory, then you would appeal, I don't know if this is building code or a planning issue or both, then you would appeal to building or the planning commission. If it's building codes, then it would probably come to us. So just be aware of the process that's involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically said a lot of rumors.
Okay, all right. But
And
sit
the-
down with the planning department and go through all of those. So we're not involved, and so somebody can't object to us making a decision if it comes to that on your RV park. Mhm. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I understand your need for objectivity.
Yeah.
And that's very professional.
Thank you. Ricky, and I hope you're successful with your RV park at some point.
It's quite beautiful. Come see it.
All right, Keith?
Yeah. And dog friendly.
Good deal.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks. Anybody
Thank you.
else? Then with hearing.
Yes,
nothing else?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rob Taylor, go ahead. I always forget about. Go ahead, Rob.
That's okay. That's all right. I just want to add to someone who said before that we need to pay more taxes. Oregon is the 10th highest tax state in the country. We are a very high tax state. And as far as I'm concerned, we pay too much money to the federal government, and the federal government is wasting too damn much of that money. I mean, they're spending it on all kinds of ridiculous things. And so when I look at taxes, I look at it, the overall cumulative amount of taxes that I pay, income, the excise fees, the property taxes, and we just pay too much damn taxes in this country. We fought a revolution over less than I think it was like we fought for 3% on taxes. And now almost half our salary is going to taxes. So I think that the problem isn't taxes. I think the problem is the way it's being spent. But that's a whole other subject, because I sent you gentlemen an email asking about a certain property and why that property hasn't been approved. And I want to thank Bob Main and Rod Taylor for responding to me, and they responded to me concisely and just exactly what I was asking for. But I have to take issue with your planning director, Jill Rolfe. In her statement, she said that when I sent my email, that I inferred that the county commissioners contravene in the law, basically saying that I asked you guys to break the law. And I've never asked you guys. If I was to ask you guys to break the law, I'd ask you to break the law. Like go up to the wagon train road and cut down those trees and let's sell them for the county. I told you that, and that was me telling you to break the law. But I have never, ever come into this county or sent you an email and ever inferred or asked anyone to break the law. And I was a little incensed that Jill would sit there and imply in her response to me, and I know you gentlemen got it, that somehow I was asking you to do just that, break the law, the planning law, the code laws that are imposed by the state. The county commissioners have the power to oversee the planning department. And you can set certain policies that are not controlled by the state. And not only that, you can hire and fire people who you don't think are actually doing what the county wants them to do as far as working with people who are trying to get permits and building codes approved. None of that is breaking the law. So if anyone inferred that I was asking you guys to break the law, they're completely confused. Jill was completely confused on that. I think Jill is sometimes confused on a lot of things. But I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
All right, anybody else online? Planning director and building codes.
Since her name was mentioned.
Yeah.
Jill
First of
Roth.
all, I do want to confirm that Commissioner Taylor has never asked for any of his permits to be pushed forward on any level.
Thank you for that, Jill.
And second of all, when I read your email, maybe I misread your email, Mr. Taylor, but it really did seem like you were trying to ask the commissioners to instruct the department to circumvent the process. And so I apologize if that's the way I read your email. I'm not confused about many things, but I really did read your email in that way. And I get it, emails sometimes can come off,
They can.
you know, you can't read tone in emails, you really can't read a lot in emails, so I do apologize for that.
And for the record, Rob, I read that same email, of course, and I did not draw the same inference that you did. So, you know, that's just a difference of perspective.
I accept Jill's apology. Explanatory of what to do rather than accusatory.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else want to have a public comment? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
How are you?
Hello, Darcy.
Darcy, how are
You
you?
can be there or you can sit down there too. Okay.
My name's Darcy Grayheck. Lived in Oregon all my life. Lived in Coos County 37 years. And I want to know, because I run a native plant nursery and I'm very closely tied to the natural resources of the state through a lot of different ways. Is there a forest plan? Because I go online and I can't find one.
A forest plan?
Yeah,
From whom?
for Coos County Forests.
Yeah, we have one.
Where is that kept? And is it allowed for the public to see it?
We even have a forest advisory commission too. I don't know if they've met in a long time, but.
Really,
there
none
is
of
a-
that's available.
The county forester is here if you'd like to sit down and talk to him after the meeting.
Would he be able to tell me where I could find that
Sure.
plan? And
He's right over there in
I do know
the green shirt with the suspenders and hat.
although we haven't met, I guess, I
Yes.
just would like to know what is in existence and can people look at it?
Sure.
How does one access the advisory council?
And,
He'll be able to explain all that to
His
me.
name is Lance Morgan. He's the county forester.
Well, that's
Okay.
online. I could find that, and I could find the map.
And it's amazing because there are only 4 people in county forestry, and they produce anywhere from $3 to $6 million a year in net revenue for the county general fund, that sheriff's office, DA, assessor, etc.
Right.
That supplements our county general
I
fund.
totally do understand that. And we've been dependent on timber as a state for a long time.
We
And
were.
probably, since I'm commenting, I might as well mention the salmon, and that Oregon was really built on salmon and timber, wouldn't you agree?
That's right.
And now both are in kind of dire straits.
And agriculture.
And agriculture came along with the settlers, but that was after timber and salmon established a lot of the South Coast.
I would add to your comment, they're in dire straits for no actual good reason. It's just a bunch of foolishness.
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I know my own opinions. And I would be very interested in working with the advisory council to see what's
Okay.
going on.
Just a little bit of information. In the mid-'80s, when the ONC forest of 2+ million acres was set aside by Congress for the benefit of the 18 western Oregon counties. So in the mid-'80s, they were logging about 400 million board feet. The maximum set aside by Congress was 500 million. The regrowth rate was 1.2 billion board feet. That turned into today's value of about $25 million to run the county general fund services. Because of the Endangered Species Act and various other things, we now, as of our current budget, get 1.3 million. It isn't enough to run the county general fund.
I understand.
Probably by next year, we will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million short in the county general fund.
I do understand.
That's sheriff and jail and DA and dispatch and juvenile and commissioners and assessor and clerk and tax and surveyor and that stuff.
Okay, I'd like to make another referral to something called the Sustainable Development Assessment that I think you were there, and I think Mr. Sweet was there in 2009 where you hired a group of experts from all over to come in and talk to you about Coos County and how you could best situate us for success going forward, realizing that natural resources were on the decline, or the availability of them to the general fund. They made a lot of recommendations. Has any of that been incorporated into the?
We did some of those, but most of them didn't make much of a difference for the county general fund income.
Could you give me an example of one of the ones
if you
did?
build, let's say you build a new McDonald's and it produces property tax of $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
We get 10% of that, or $5,000. How many McDonald's would you have to build to supplement the $4 million?
Yeah, I don't think we were talking about McDonald's. I think we were talking about something much
It's
bigger
200
than that.
That's 2,000 McDonald's. My math is right.
It might be good to bring that back and take a look at it again.
I'd like a chance to comment.
Yes.
I need to be quick because I have another engagement here.
Yes.
One, that study happened before I became a commissioner. But in defense of all of the commissioners, that was not ignored. There were parts of that told us to look at opportunities to change departments that were losing money to departments that were making money. And to that end, we streamlined our solid waste department. We streamlined our parks department. We made investments in both. And we have turned what used to be a loss, I can't remember, something like $400,000 a year to a surplus in those departments. So they're paying for themselves, not using tax dollars, of several $100,000.
Yeah.
Another recommendation was made to, I have to back up a little bit. A lot of what the county does is to deliver services that the federal government and the state government want all the citizens to have. A good example of that is Coos Health and Wellness. Most of that money comes from Medicaid payments. They were self-supporting to the extent that if they took that money, they didn't have to depend upon taxpayers' money. But they did depend upon the county. They and roads and other independent departments that aren't supported by taxpayers, they did depend upon the county for personnel services, for payroll services, for accounting services, for insurance services, a multitude of those services that we had centralized.
Right.
And we implemented a system as recommended in those years in that study you referred to, of charging for those centralized services that we provided those departments that were really funded by state or federal money.
That's
and
awesome.
I don't recall off the top of my head, but I think that has added something close to $500,000, probably more by now,
That's
to
awesome.
our general fund. So yes, we've done
that you have implemented.
And talk about the county forest. I don't know that we have a written plan, but I can tell you we have 17,500 acres. Approximately 12% of that acreage is off limits to harvest because of state regulations, which are good, pertaining to riparian set-asides, steep slopes, and one thing and another. That whatever it is, the acreage that leaves us, we harvest 350 acres a year. We sell 350 acres of logging rights each year. That would provide a 44-year rotation. That's typically industrial forests run on a 40 to 50-year rotation.
Right.
So we're right there on that.
Right.
And there's sometimes a buyer of that logging contract will log it the first. They have 3 years, and so the logging doesn't go as an even flow. But the sales of logging rights are due every year, total right around 350 acres a year. So it's a very sustainable operation. I'm very proud of the county forest. Not only do we provide $3 million a year in profits to the operation of the county, which reduces what the taxpayers have to pay. We also provide recreational opportunities such as a firing range, hiking, mushroom gathering, a bike trail, a motorbike trail. What else do we have?
No, I understand all that,
So,
and really, that's none of my,
it's a-
nothing to do with my question,
It's-
really.
But
I
want
appreciate
you
it.
to know, and I want everyone here to know, that
Uh-huh.
we have a very well-run, sustainable county forest that is important to us. I'll be
Okay.
happy to talk to you about that, and I think we need to.
Okay, and regarding the sustainable development assessment, the county was only one stakeholder, to be fair. It was for everyone that is at the table. So I wasn't trying to pick on you for that, but I
Come
was
by
trying to bring it
anytime.
up.
I'd love to visit with you.
I know. And then, did you say that we would run out of forestry money at some point?
No.
No.
In fact, in the last few years, we've added over 2,000 acres.
Oh, I
of
thought you said it
county-
was in decline.
Of forest land to the county forest
Okay.
to try and increase the number of acres we harvest to supplement the general fund.
Okay.
But like I say, the big supporter, which is gone now, was the logging on the ONC forest.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's difficult to replace. And
So,
we have the, as you probably know, we have the second lowest tax rate for the county of any county in Oregon.
I do know that.
The reason for that was, and rightly so, the commissioners back when relied on that ONC forest money. Why should they raise property taxes when they're getting roughly in the mid-80s, $25 million?
Right.
They didn't need to.
Right.
I agree with that.
I've grown
But
up
now
with
we're in a
this.
different situation.
Right. So anyway, it would be of interest to me, not just the logging, it's the replanting. I'm very interested in the replanting.
We do.
You
We do.
mentioned a 44-year rotation.
And
that's
generally speaking, if it's harvested before the fall of the year, it is replanted that very same winter.
With
a mixture of Douglas fir, white or hemlock, white fir, cedar. What else, Lance?
That looks about right.
Got spruce.
Spruce.
Yeah, we've been shying a little away from the spruce because there's a disease that's impacting spruce.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to plant trees just to have them succumb to that disease.
Okay.
But no, we have a unique manage for it. It's
Yeah,
not-
I would be really interested in learning more. So would you have time to fill me in on how I can learn more? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy.
Good to see you.
Anybody else? Thank you all for being here. You're
Thank you.
adjourned.